Is there some boomer sitting in the house that you should be owning right now? It's complicated, but the answer might be yes. Hey everyone, it's Dave from BiggerPockets, and today we're talking about how baby boomers are impacting the housing market. Now, you may know this, but baby boomers were the biggest generation in American history. And being so large, they have reshaped the United States culturally and economically, and the housing market is really no different. The way that the baby boomers handle their finances and their behavioral preferences are right now playing a huge role in the housing market. As of today, boomers are, generally speaking, between 60 and 80 years old, which means that a lot will change for them in the next 20 years. And if you're investing in real estate, you should really be doing it with a 10 to 20 year time horizon. So understanding these demographic trends is really important because they're probably going to overlap with your investing career. And what baby boomers decide to do about their housing options are going to impact your portfolio's performance. So pay attention to today's videos because we're going to be offering you some hidden secrets that will help you build an optimal real estate portfolio based on these demographic trends. All right, so this gets talked a lot about on social media, but it's actually true. Boomers control an enormous amount of wealth in the United States. Currently, it is estimated that they control 52% of the wealth in the United States while making up just 21% of the population. This is insane, even when you take into the account that older generations are naturally just going to be wealthier because they've had more time to build their careers, to generate income, and to compound their interest and investments. And it's not just wealth, this comes down to housing as well. As of now, boomers own about 38% of homes, again, just 21% of the population. And some of this makes sense because home ownership has always tend to skew towards older people within any society. And so that's definitely true. But the key here is really in the nuances to one, what type of homes baby boomers own right now, and two, how baby boomers are intending to spend the last 10 to 20 years of their lives. See, with past generations, when it was the silent generation or previously, older people tended to sell off their family style homes, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom homes as they got older, and they would trade down once their kids were out of the house. And that would create sort of this cascade effect where family homes would open up for new families, starter homes would open up for new couples, and so on and so on. But that isn't happening anymore. And there are two major reasons for this. The first is the lock-in effect. It's basically that baby boomers aren't selling their bigger family homes right now because it's too expensive to do it. The way interest rates have moved over the last couple of years have basically created this scenario that if you were, say, 65, maybe recently retired, and you wanted to go from having a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom condo, in almost all situations, you're actually going to be paying at least as much, if not more, to trade down the size of your home. So who is going to do that, right? It makes no sense financially to go get a smaller house and pay more for it. So more people are just staying in place. And we'll talk about whether we think that's going to change, but that's one of the main reasons we're not seeing a lot of family style home inventory in the market right now. The second reason is just about behavioral preferences and changes in how people want to spend their later years. In survey after survey, I looked at like 5 different surveys from different people, and they all say the same thing, that boomers intend to, quote, age in place. This is basically the idea that rather than moving in with a family member or to assisted living, baby boomers hope to stay put as they age. And of course, this is aspirational. We don't know if people are going to be, given their health, their finances, or whatever, going to be able to do it. But a whopping 71% of boomers said that they will definitely or probably try to age in place. That is a massive, massive amount. And these things are natural, right? Like, I know it's very hip to blame boomers for everything, but if you just think about the economics of this, right? One, who would want to downsize to pay more money, especially when you're on a fixed income when you're retired? And two, it kind of makes sense that people want want to age in place, right? I think if it were me, I would probably choose to stay in my home rather than move to assisted living if I had the health and finances to do it. So I get where they're coming from. My point in this video is that it has implications for housing for everyone else, whether that's Gen X, Millennials, or Gen Z. For families with children currently, it's really, really difficult to find family-style homes that have 3 or 4 bedrooms. I actually found this stat when I was researching this article that really shocked me. According to this report, empty nest baby boomers, so people who don't have children in the house, own 28% of 3-bedroom plus homes in the country, while millennials with children, the people who need those 3-bedroom plus homes, own just 14%. So basically, boomers, no kids, own double the amount of big homes compared to millennials who have kids. So that just shows you that this normal trickle down of handing off of these like family homes down to younger generations is just not happening. Again, not because baby boomers are being greedy, it's just how the financial incentives are working. Now, because boomers aren't selling, that creates a lack of supply, right? And millennials are now the biggest generation in the country as baby boomers, as they get older, they, not to be crass, but they start to die off. And so millennials are now the biggest generation in the United States. And so there's a lot of demand for this type of housing. There's just not a lot of supply, which pushes up prices. And this has been a major contributor on top of a lot of other things, but this is one of the major contributors to the affordability challenge that younger couples and younger families, millennials or Gen Z, are seeing right now. Now, one thing that could help this would be building, and we are seeing construction tick up a little bit, but that's going to take a while. Like, that does not happen overnight. And when I say it's ticking up, it's by a little bit. Like, even at this increased pace, it would take years, if not decades, to fill the gap that we need. The other impact of this is that builders are seeing this dynamic that I'm talking about. And so they're going to try and build these 3 or 4 bedroom homes, which could, in the long term, alleviate some of the supply issues for families. But it's one of the reasons we don't see new starter homes being built. And that is reducing affordability for younger folks, particularly Gen Z and younger millennials. So you see how this thing sort of trickles throughout the entire housing market. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going to get better anytime soon. A recent survey, this came out just like a week or two ago from Redfin, 43% of boomers say that they're never going to sell their homes. And so that is going to create a somewhat permanent logjam if boomers actually have their way on this. I personally think it's not going to work out that way. I do think eventually, whether because of health issues, financial issues, or perhaps mortgage rates come down to the 5 and 5.5% range, then maybe more boomers who are thinking right now, given market conditions, that they're going to age in place, will choose to do something else, and that will free up some supply. We will also see construction will help, but again, it is slow, and builders aren't focused on helping affordability, right? They're just trying to focus on profit. So it's not like they're building super cheap homes that are going to make this all that much easier. So the question then really becomes, as a real estate investor, what do you do? My single best tip to build a successful portfolio given these demographic trends is to focus on single family rentals. With this lower inventory and lower affordability that I personally think is going to be around for a while, it's going to remain very difficult for families to buy larger homes, especially in bigger, more expensive type markets. And that is going to, at least in my opinion, create sustained demand for family-friendly rentals for years to come. We're actually already starting to see this, that there are more people, more families that are choosing to rent. Even if they can stretch themselves to get that slightly unaffordable home, they're choosing to rent because it's actually a better economic decision for them. And I think that trend is going to continue. So personally, I've started looking a bit at single family rentals, particularly in good school districts, because I think these are going to have good, solid rent, great vacancy rates, and rents are probably going to grow over the next couple of years. Another thing I'm looking at within the single family rental class is luxury renters. This has been really interesting, but there's all this data that shows that a lot of people who can afford to buy a home just don't want to do it anymore, given the cost and sometimes the headaches of home ownership, let's be honest, and they just want to rent really nice single family homes. And so I've been looking at that as well. I'm not as evolved and far along in that research, but it's something that the data supports, and I'm going to be researching, and I think you should as well. The second point I want to make, other than single family rentals being a really strong asset class for the foreseeable future, is I personally would not wait for the quote unquote silver tsunami. I don't know if you've heard this term. There are some very famous real estate personalities who have been saying that the housing market is going to crash for like 10 or 11 years now because of the silver tsunami. This is the idea that boomers were going to reach retirement and were either going to sell in mass, or as they pass away, their homes were going to go out onto the market, flood the market with inventory, and we'd see a housing market crash. Well, we've been into this so-called silver tsunami for 11 years now, and that has obviously not happened. And personally, I don't think it's going to happen. Don't get me wrong. Boomers will sell more of their homes than they will right now. This is where I think we're probably close to the low point, and we'll start to see it tick up. But the idea that they're all going to sell at one time in a way that it would flood the market with too many homes for buyers honestly has zero evidence. And in fact, the evidence points the other direction, right? The evidence points to that we are probably going to see boomers hold on to their properties longer than we were expecting. So if you've been waiting for the silver tsunami to come to enter the housing market, please stop. If there are other reasons you don't want to get in the housing market, fine. But there is really no evidence that this silver tsunami is going to happen. Last thing I'll offer is one just sort of advanced strategy that I've been thinking about. I don't even really know how to do this logistically. I know people do it, but I've been thinking about how you could offer a leaseback option. If you've ever heard of this, you can buy a house and basically rent to the previous owners. You can agree to this during the sale. And I was thinking that this might be a really appealing option to certain baby boomers who want to age in place. They get to get liquidity. They get to get a big chunk of cash from you buying their home, and then they get to stay in that home as a renter. Meanwhile, you get to buy at today's prices. You get probably a very good tenant who's going to take care of that home, who's going to pay an agreed upon rent, and is probably going to have very little to no vacancy for the foreseeable future. It does seem like it could be a mutual benefit win-win. If you know how to do this or know anyone who has done this, please let me know in the comments below, because it's something I've just been thinking about given these trends, and I think it might be an interesting dynamic that plays out in the next couple of years. So that's what I got for you guys today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's going on with these demographic trends. Will baby boomers hold on to these properties as hard as they say they're going to, or will supply open up over the next couple of years as hopefully rates come down and maybe baby boomers' behavioral preferences start to change? Thank you all so much for watching. For BiggerPockets, I'm Dave Meyer. See you next time.